Do I need the 5-star hotel because environment is so important to me according to my design, or am I just a bougie bitch?
There is so much friction that comes up in relationships when we just expect others to be different than what they are or similar to us. And I think human design just helps us know exactly how different they are.
Intentional unproductivity.
It's the best. Changed my life.
Are there any signals in our chart that we might be in the wrong work environment entirely?
Generators, so they often can burn out quickly when they don't put their own passions on the front burner. Projectors really burn out when we don't allow moments of pause. Manifestors are very disruptive people that are really good at getting ideas started, not necessarily at doing all the doing to keep the thing alive. If you don't get a strong gut response to something, it could mean that it's never the right thing, or it could also...
I wonder if I could use this to help me make all the decisions for my wedding plan.
I was about to say that.
Where are the haters? Like, you guys have been quiet. Like, is my messaging not provocative enough for you? It's provocative.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
Welcome back to the show, Erin. I'm so excited that you're here after, you guys, so many technical issues. We're having a day today. We made it work. We have Erin back on the show. If you guys are loyal listeners, you will have already heard the first episode that we had with Erin Claire Jones, which was absolutely incredible, all about like the basics, foundations of human design, understanding your type, authority. We dove into so much. So if you're just getting started in the world of human design, you might want to also listen to that episode because there was so many good nuggets in there. But today we're bringing Erin back on the show. She's got a new book coming out, and it's a lot more about this practical application of human design and how we can actually use this in our real lives to help us make better choices when it comes to career, relationships, life, and beyond. So I'm really excited for this conversation. So I feel like we're going to get to see the real kind of world applications of human design, more so than just like, here's the types and here's your authority, but like, really, how do we actually use this tool? Because I know in personal development, we love all the, quizzes and personality tests and understanding ourselves. We love the self-introspection, but it's rare, I think, that we actually get to fully adopt a tool and use it to its fullest capacity so that we can really see it help our lives, our relationships, the way that we relate to children, family, coworkers, our careers, and so much more. So I'm really excited to dive in with you today, Erin. Thanks for coming back on the show and welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be back.
Yay! Okay, so the book is coming out soon, which I'm so excited about. It's already available for pre-order. Oh my gosh, this book, like I've ever since I saw the title, I was like, I have to ask her if the title, like, how do you choose? Is this a nod to the authority part of our human design, or how did you come up with this title? Because as soon as I saw it, I was like, I feel like we're talking about authority here. I need to know.
Absolutely. So it's so funny. The first talk I ever gave on human design, we called How Do You Choose? And it's kind of been like a thread throughout many things over the past 10 years. But the point of the book, as you articulated so beautifully, is around how human design can be practically applied in our lives, and more specifically, how you can use human design to make really empowered decisions in relationships and career and wellness. And so how do you choose is kind of what embodied that. I think that it is actually meant to be a very real-time decision-making guide. Like, I've already had early readers be like, oh, I can't decide like what apartment to take or what offer to launch. And they like open up to a certain chapter and they're like, oh, I know exactly what to do. And so it's meant to be this resource you keep returning to because, as you know well, we're making decisions all day, every day. Big ones like where to live and what client to take on, and small ones like who to spend your Saturday with. And I think human design, using the authority and the other parts of the chart, really help us know how to make decisions in a way that is so authentic and expansive for us.
I think, there's a common thing with women, especially, where we can feel like we're really indecisive or we struggle to trust ourselves and make those decisions. And from my own personal journey, I've always felt like if I'm identifying as indecisive, it's usually because I'm not fully trusting myself. So would you agree and say that the understanding of your type, your design, your authority, all of that is helping you make better decisions, big and small, because it's helping you trust the way that you naturally should choose things? Is it about self-trust ultimately in the end?
100%. And it's about knowing how to tap into your own way of deciding, and yes, trusting it every single time. I know we'll talk about your chart later, but for example, just for some like a practical context, like you're somebody who makes decisions in the moment based on your gut feeling. It's super instantaneous, it's fast, like as soon as it's full body, like there's no need to wait or sleep on it. But many people with designs like yours feel very indecisive because they have a strong gut response and then immediately go into their mind to try to kind of talk themselves out of or into the decision, and then they kind of lose that visceral connection. So for you, decision making can and should be simple when you are kind of listening to that first and best instinct. That's not true for everybody, but that is really true for you.
Mm, yeah, I see that. Like, it's interesting the connection between being someone that has a design where decision making should be simple, but yet that same type of person could really be indecisive because
Yeah,
it's almost like their design is not in alignment with how the world wants us to choose things. Like the
that's right.
world wants you to mull it over, to really look at the pros and the cons, to be logical, or maybe people in your life, they make
Yeah.
decisions differently than you. So when you seem impulsive, maybe when you get that gut
Yeah.
response. And so understanding that the way that you're going to make decisions is going to be different from your partner or your friends or whoever can save us a lot of grief, I think, because so often people consult the other people in their lives about these
Yeah.
choices that they're going to make, especially the bigger ones, right? Which maybe isn't even that helpful because they would decide in a completely different way than you would. And they don't understand that you have that gut response if you are a manifesting generator, let's say, or sacral authority or whatever, like me.
Yeah, and I love the relationship piece because it's so true. Like we can experience so much friction in relationships because we are deciding differently than a partner or a friend or a colleague. I tell a story in the book of a couple that was trying to decide whether or not to move to the East Coast. And one of them had a very strong gut response immediately like you. She was like definitively like, yes, we have to move. And when she came to me, she was like, my husband's waffling. He can't decide. This is so frustrating. And when I looked up his chart, I realized his way of making decisions was that he was meant to give himself a full month to reach clarity. And so he was kind of meant to sample in all these possibilities over the course of a month to kind of land in his truth. And so what she was perceiving as indecisiveness was just his way of finally reaching his truth and finally getting clear on what he needed to do. And so it was just so revelatory in that moment to be like, he's not doing anything wrong, and neither is she. Their processes are just really, really different. And coming to a clear yes for both of them is so worth it if they're going to make a big move like that.
Yeah, so true. Okay, so I have some like daily life choices and examples that I wanted to position you like for you for like human design. Morning routines, I want to start with. Do you think that we should decide our morning routines like designed by our type? Is that a thing?
Mm. Honestly, there's so much more beyond type that I think would go into it. I think that like, for example, but if we're going to use type, I can offer some examples.
Well,
Like,
human design in general, I guess. If you think
yeah.
there's another element of the chart that would be more aligned with helping you decide your morning routine.
Well, yeah, I think there are pieces. So, like, I'm going to use you as an example. I'll use myself as an example too. You're a manifesting generator. And so, one of your biggest lessons in your design is really creating space to do the things that just like genuinely excite you and light you up and kind of just give you so much fire because
Which
it
is
gives
why
you,
I don't have a morning routine.
because, well, it's funny you say that because one, it gives you more energy to do everything else. So, I would say, like, doing something in the morning that just like brings you joy is important, but that thing might keep changing. Like,
Hmm.
you're not somebody who's meant to like always have the same thing lighting you up. Do you have a really consistent exercise routine?
Sort of.
Because your design says you're not meant to, is why I ask. It's a little bit
Yeah.
more in the flow.
I say sort of because I think I try to fit myself into the box of being really consistent. But if I were not trying to like, okay, let's weightlift 3 to 4 times a week every week, and that's like all I do. If I were just like, I don't know, living my best life and doing whatever I wanted, I probably would vary it more. But because I'm limited for like time and stuff with business and work, I try to simplify and just go, okay, this
Yeah.
is what I'm going to do. But it definitely does I feel that like resistance of it being hard to stick to something, especially like even if I do the same type of workout consistently, like let's say it's, going to a traditional gym and weightlifting, I can't do like the same workouts, like actual like sets, machines, reps, like
Yeah.
over and over. I get bored so fast with anything that has to do with working out. So, yeah, that even like if I go to a class and it's like they want you to do 4 rounds of the same, I'm like, can we go to the next thing already? Like, I just get bored really fast.
So interesting. Yeah. So I would say as a manifesting generator, having like variety and freshness in your daily routine is really helpful. And then you have another part of your design that is around not being super rigid and kind of like the exercise every day. So like letting it change, letting it be inspired by like where you are that day. So it's not about not moving, but it's about not forcing the same thing day after day, which for some people is really, really good. I would say though, and this is totally beyond your type, but there is a part of your chart that really does thrive with like routine and ritual. So like even though you might not have a consistent morning routine, even having like some small ritual to kind of like jumpstart the day and close the day are things that might be useful for you.
I love that. What about you when it comes to morning routines and your type? Because you're different than me.
I am different, and it's hard because my morning routine has kind of been blown up and with having young kids. But
Yeah.
I would say as a projector, I'm actually somebody that, and this is beyond my type, but thrives with a little bit more kind of consistency and exercise. But I really love as a projector having like a really slow start. I honestly love waking up before other people and having like a moment to myself before like everything begins. And I personally like love meditating and like having a moment to journal to start the day. At this point, it's so rare that like I'm the one proactively beginning my day. It's usually like one of the kids jumpstarting it for me. So I can't say I'm living my ideal at the moment, but I really like a lot of slowness, and like my husband's a generator. He kind of gets up and gets going, but I kind of like to wake up early and just really take my space and take my time. And I think honestly, the most valuable thing for me is like having a moment before anyone else is, I don't want to say messing with me because it's not a negative thing, but like anyone else is around and like projectors often need so much time alone. So I hadn't even really made that connection of how important that is for me.
Yeah, just like as soon as you're engaging with other people, whether it's online or it's in your household with your kids, family, whatever, you're receiving other people's energy. So I totally get that of wanting to be in your own kind of energy and center yourself before beginning the day. Okay, what do you think about like social media use? Speaking of like daily life choices where we might be able to guide ourselves with the help of our human design, is there anything to indicate like how we share or show up or in what format or how often um
Mm.
it like might be in alignment for us to share based on our design, some part of
Yeah.
our design?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, I'll just use us as examples because I think that's the easiest one. I think of you as a manifesting generator, like you are really just to like you're meant to share when you like naturally respond to something. When like something shows up and it lights you up and you're like on fire. And like when you're really on fire and excited to share, like it is the most magnetic, charismatic thing in the world. So I would say for you, I would really do your best not to share in the moments where you're like, oh God, I have to, or I have to say a thing, or like, I don't know what to say. Like letting it come really organically and really investing on the platforms that just like bring you a lot of natural energy. I work with so many manifesting generators and generators that are on social media simply because they think they're supposed to, but they've got no energy for it, and it's not really working. So I guess, have you noticed that? Like, do you feel like you've got a lot of like natural energy and excitement around Instagram or even the podcast?
Well, to go off of this point of responding, this has been a huge realization for me with my design because like you said, I almost, when I'm just like by myself, I'm like, I have nothing to say. There's nothing to talk about. Like, what would I share? Like, I feel like there's often times where I feel like creatively blocked. I only get inspired when it's in response to something else, meaning like I'm having a conversation with my friends, or I just went out to a girls' dinner and we talked about something that was like business related, or I'm talking with my clients. And like you said, that this is why I love like group coaching and masterminds because like my energy is so on when I can just like receive the questions, dig into the conversations, look at everyone's like businesses, what they're doing, and like those responses. It's almost like that's what ignites my channel. And I
Yeah.
feel like I just like open up directly and like so much comes through. And it is very like energetic, charismatic. I'm funny. The humor is transmitted. And that is harder for me to do on Instagram or the podcast if I'm not having a conversation with a guest or like responding to something, but I'm just like sitting down and going, oh, let me plan out this post or let me plan out this episode. I've definitely felt that there's an easier flow and there's a path that's like harder for me.
Yeah, totally. And I think this is true for all generators and manifesting generators. Like if you're expecting inspiration to come when you're just sitting at home alone, like it's not really meant to come that way. It's meant to come in response to the world, like what you see on Instagram, what comes in a conversation, what you hear in a podcast. So letting that spark kind of ignite naturally. I would also say, and I'm curious whether this has shown up in the way that you share, and this is a channel you have in your design, kind of a gift that you have. But you have this ability to kind of speak to the truth of what's happening in a way that's like very penetrating and intense and just like you can just like see exactly what's happening. It is best when it's like invited in, but because like it's a little bit much when people aren't ready for it. So I'm curious, like, one, do you resonate with that gift? And two, do you feel like that comes alive? I imagine it comes alive a lot in your masterminds and groups, even more so than social media.
Yeah, for sure. Especially because in those spaces, I think, like you said, it is invited in. That's why they're at the table. That's why they're in mentorship because they want those blind spots to be revealed to them. They want to like receive that insight. But this reminds me of something recently. I was out to dinner with some friends, and I have this one friend who's in like a very tumultuous, like unhealthy relationship dynamic. And she knows it, and we know it. And uh, my my gate or my gift or my whatever like really turned online, and my ability to just like see the situation for what it is and say it in a very direct way. But in that moment it wasn't invited in, and it was too intense for her. And it was like a moment where she was like, I know that you're trying to love me and help me, but like I actually feel like,
Yeah.
you know, that was like a lot for me.
Yeah, it is, it's just a good reminder. It's like our designs not only let us know what our gifts are, but also how to wield them well, because that's obviously an extraordinary gift that you have and your clients benefit from it so much. But if people aren't ready, it can just like go over their head and then you might feel resentful because it doesn't land. So,
Yeah.
one other piece I would just say about your sharing on social media is like you're also somebody who's very fast. You're what we call a sacral authority, which we talked about, like kind of trusting your gut instinct in the moment. So you might feel inspired to share a thing and write it and then like want to post it the next week and like you no longer care about it. So there is also something around like honoring the moment by moment inspiration because you are kind of a fast moment by moment person.
Mm. How does that vary from the way that you create online and how you share?
So as projectors, I would say it's not always going to be quite as consistent. I think that like I really tried to be consistent over the many years, but I think with the book and with the kids, it's harder now. But it's really kind of honoring the natural ebbs and flows where you might have periods of inspiration and periods of like a lack of inspiration and like and waiting for the inspiration to come back. And then I think I additionally, like I'm somebody who needs a lot more time with decisions. So I find that even with social posts, like I love writing a post and then like revisiting it after a couple days and like modifying it and then sharing. Like I like kind of letting things just like settle for a little bit before I share, which I know is different than a lot of people. But I would also say a big lesson for any projectors listening. And also, if you're new, you can look up your design at humandesignblueprint.com. But so much of being a projector is around letting ourselves be seen, making ourselves visible. So I would also think about like, what are the platforms where you can share and you feel seen? Because those are often going to be the ones that you have a lot more energy to show up for. So it might not be Instagram, it might not be a podcast, it might not be newsletters, but like really considering where you feel really recognized because that's going to fuel you with the energy to show up.
So good. Okay, the next thing is travel, because something that you shared with me in our last episode was like, I felt so seen, and it was like such a validation for me. But I want to ask this question for like anybody else too. Can our human design legitimately influence where we decide to stay and eat while traveling, like hotels, restaurants? And if we are forced to stay somewhere that isn't aligned with the needs of our design, might we have an awful time? I.e., read this question as, do I need the five-star hotel because environment is so important to me, according to my design, or am I just a bougie bitch?
Okay, well, I would say, and this comes from your what we call an open identity center, but it basically means you are somebody who's incredibly sensitive to your physical space, and being in the right space is the thing that leads to the right experience. And so I would advise you to be actually quite high maintenance about your space, to be very meticulous about your surroundings. Like, I don't know if I want to go so far to like say like you'll have an awful experience, but like I would say like it's going to be so much easier to have a better experience when you're in a space that feels good, and I would not underestimate the impact of that. Like
Mhm,
and like so when I if I'm sitting with somebody like you in session, I would say like if you go to a hotel and it doesn't feel good, switch hotels. Obviously, that's
mhm,
not always feasible. You know,
mhm,
if you like are looking for a home and you walk in, it's not, I mean, just don't do it. But like if you go to a restaurant and you don't like the table, switch tables. So like
mhm,
I would say like yeah, your standards are meant to be so high when it comes to space. And, people will get the best out of you in the right space. You will get the best out of you. You will have the experiences you're meant to. So, there are, yeah, my recommendation is to honor that however and wherever you can. And your standards might keep raising. You know what I mean? Like what maybe felt
I'm
really
here.
good. Yeah, what maybe, well, and also here, let me give you another example. I sat with somebody a few weeks ago who was like, I once like I don't know, it was like a Motel 6 was maybe her example, but she's like, I once was like in this situation, I was like in a Motel 6 and like it wasn't very nice and yet like it felt like the right space for me. She's like, and yet there was something about that space that felt like exactly where I had to be in that moment. And so like it's not to say that the space that feels good is going to necessarily be a bougie space, although it might be, but it's more like just noticing how a space feels and what kind of creates this sense of expansion and ease in your body and letting that be your guide.
So good. So good. When we traveled to Puerto Rico a couple of years ago, we were staying in this, it was a lovely hotel, but the room that we got was like the window was so small. There was barely any natural light coming in. And I just felt like I just can't be in this room. Like as soon as we walked in, I was just like, and it wasn't like a not nice room. It was just like the energy for me, I could just feel it immediately. It was like, I do not like this space. And of course, my fiance was like, Sam, we're barely going to be in the room. Like, it's a nice room. Like, and I was like, I think I need to go down and ask them to change. And so I just did. I just had to honor it. I just had to go down and say, I'm sorry. Is there any other rooms that you have available? And then I was like, it's worth it for me to pay to upgrade to get a different
Right.
type of room because I'm not, it's going to be in the back of my mind the entire time that this is like bothering me. And then it's like not the kind of like the energy and the environment that I want to be in.
100%. You know, one story I tell in my book, and my husband has a pretty similar design too, in that he's very gut in the moment and he's also so sensitive to space. But I remember once many years ago, we were looking for a place to stay for New Year's in the Hudson Valley. And I like showed him all these spaces that were like so beautiful, like these beautiful Airbnbs. And like every time I showed him, he was like, nope, nope, nope. And I was just like, I don't get it. These spaces are amazing. But like he, like you, is gut feeling in the moment. And it was so clear that he was not getting a strong gut response. And we were in the car on our way to a friend's house. And I pulled up this like listing that had no reviews, you know, which always feels like really quite risky. And I showed it to him and he's like, that's it, book it. And I like booked it on the car ride. And I was just like, I guess I'm just trusting his gut. But we landed there and it was like the most beautiful space we'd ever been. And like we tried to like buy the house. We liked it so much. Like, so I think that like for me, as somebody that is married to somebody with that strong gut response and also that extraordinary sensitivity to physical space, I really learned to navigate that when traveling, where it's like we really kind of try to prioritize that as much as we can around what spaces
Yeah.
feel good to him.
Yeah, my fiance is learning. He knows. He knows to check the bathrooms to make sure that they're up to my standards.
Yeah.
All the things. There's just certain things where I'm like, I just can't. If the bathroom is crusty, like I just can't. I just can't. Okay, I have some motherhood questions because
Yeah.
the last time we talked, you had told me that you were pregnant. I don't know. I don't know how you
Wow.
told the world that you were pregnant yet, but you told me. You were like, secret, I'm pregnant.
Wow.
And you were birthing. You mentioned to me that you were writing the book. And so it was that season of birthing not only your second
Yeah, I
baby,
already had
but
one baby.
also, yeah.
Okay, I was like, wait, I had no babies? Okay, I had one baby.
Oh, yeah.
Got it.
You
Okay.
had
Your
your
second.
daughter, and
Yeah.
then you were pregnant with your second, and
Yeah.
you're going into the process of writing the book. So obviously now you have two kids, which is a big change of dynamic and everything. So I wanted to ask you some questions about like motherhood and human design and how they relate. I'm curious if, now that you have two children, if you feel like knowing your child's design can change the way that you choose to discipline or motivate or even play with your children. Obviously, they're quite young still, but
Yeah.
do you notice like the differences in how you're wanting to parent them or guide them based on their designs?
I am. And it's not in a way where I'm being really rigid of like, they're this and I have to do this. It's more around observation. But I have a 2-year-old who's a manifesting generator, and I have a 6-month-old who's a manifester. And it's really so wild to me because, both of these kids came from me and my husband, and yet they are so, so different. And human design has just given me a framework to kind of look at that. My manifesting generator daughter is so charismatic and just like this big ball of light. And she also has like so much energy that she's got to use up every day. Like she throws herself around, like she's just like has to like get it all out. And she's like, she literally was like cackling at 2 months old. Like life was just like hilarious to her. And it was so fun. And she's just like so pure fun in all the ways. And my manifestor daughter, the younger one, manifestors are very disruptive. They're very intense. They're really good at getting things started. They really crave freedom. There's like this intensity to her where like she's like not really content if you're just like holding her. Like she's like, lock in with me, be with me. And I think the thing that I've actually loved observing in her is, when she was 2 months old, she started rolling over and like breaking out of her swaddle and like, sleeping on her belly, which apparently they're not supposed to when they're that young. So I remember calling the pediatrician and being like, I'm like trying to flip her over and like she will not, she's just going back and back and back. And she was like, you can't do anything. That's what she wants to do. And I was like, God, she's such a manifester. Like, one, she just like can't be confined. But two, like she's just doing her own thing. She's treading her own path. She's like already super independent. So I think that I observe it so much in them. And like, I think that it kind of blows my mind because they're very, very young. So I don't think I'm actually changing that much right now, besides just observing. And in moments like that, when she's breaking out of her swaddle and craving freedom, to be like, I can't stop her. That's like exactly what she needs. And when my manifesting Jenner daughter's like, I'm gonna like start this one and this one, I'm gonna like throw myself around. It's like, get it out, use it up, you know? So I think it's been really helpful in that way. I also think that it's been really helpful to know my design as a mother. I work with so many parents. I tell many parent stories in the book, but I think we often, yeah, we don't really give ourselves permission to do what we need as parents. And I think for me as a projector, I will say it's been harder this with the second than the first, but I think from a very early stage, I was like, I need time alone. I need space. I can't do this alone. I need lots of help, paid help, but also like unpaid help, like texting a neighbor and be like, please help me. I'm like, I really am underwater right now. So I think that I really just allowed that really early on. And I would say that alone time is rarer now with two than it was with one, but I just take it whenever I can because I just know that it makes me such a better mother, in every single way. And one thing I'd share for you, I know you're not a parent, but I think you want to be. I tell a story of a manifesting generator in the book who was a mother of 4 or 5 kids. I don't remember. And she'd been at home with them for a number of years. And when she came to me, she was just like, Erin, I'm really craving some kind of professional creative stimulation. Like, I really want to start working again. And I feel so guilty about it. I feel like it's going to take me away from my kids. And I was like, one thing to remember as a manifesting generator is the more satisfied you are, the more energy you give to everyone else. So if you carve out some time a week, whether it's an hour or whether it's 20, to kind of do a thing that you enjoy, like, I think you might be surprised by how it impacts your children. And I remember her coming back and be like, oh my God, my kids are so much happier and so much lighter and so much brighter because she had seen prioritizing her own satisfaction as selfish when it was the most generous thing that she could do for her family. So I think it
Mhm.
gives us so many amazing insights into how we can really take care of ourselves as parents in a way that it's a hard journey and it's the most amazing journey. At least it has been for me in all the ways, but I think it's allowed it to be a bit more sustainable wherever I can make it more sustainable.
Yeah, I love that reframe too, because I think there's a lot of, at least, myself included, female entrepreneurs. I know entrepreneurship is kind of another layer of complexity when you go into this journey of deciding to become a mom, a parent, and kind of take on that new role of like, how is this going to fit and wanting to do both things really well, but that kind of reframe of, doing something that fills you up and brings you joy and gives you that professional stimulation, like the client in the book said that she needed, can also be a super generous thing because when you're lit up and alive and activated and in that energy, that overflows into everything and everyone in your life in those other areas. So I love that reframe
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
I'm curious about you and your partner's human design. Like before you had kids, or maybe even after you had kids, did you notice that because of according to your different like designs, did that tell you anything about what kind of parents you would be or like what your parenting styles might lean towards?
Hmm. It's funny. My husband and I have done so much together. We've like, we work together, we've parented together, we just like do so much together. So I think we've really had to learn how to appreciate our differences and honor them. I think that, yeah, we're really different when it comes to parenting, and I think we're also really different when it comes to everything. Like, he's a generator, he has very like steady energy and so much energy that's like so contagious and so like lifts us all up. And so I think that that's been a big thing as a parent, similar to manifesting generators, him having space to kind of do the work that he loves, just like feeds our family with like his energy. I think one thing that I've noticed, and I talk about this in the book as well, is that generators can so easily become burdened with kind of carrying everything because they are so capable. Same with manifesting generators, where it's like, and I have noticed that in our family where it's like so much with the kids and with the business and with life, and then it just kind of like drains his battery so quickly. And so I think parenting has been a really big lesson for me as a partner to be like, how can I just support him in having some space to do the things that he really, really enjoys just because like those things are more important now than ever. And
Mhm.
so I think that like, I do think in our kind of generator projector dynamic, he can hold a lot. And I think generators can do that. So that's made me really aware of that. In terms of parenting, I think like I really need one-on-one time as a projector with both of my kids, so I really kind of like try to take them both off. I mean, I get a lot with my youngest inevitably, but I think in those early months when I had my newborn, I got a lot less one-on-one time with my toddler, and it was like the hardest time as a parent so far. So I think that's been a big thing for me as a projector is like having that one-on-one time to kind of build that connection. So I think I'm still watching it happen, in terms of how we do things differently because we're just like such different people. But I do think it's really teaching me how to make sure he gets what he needs in these moments wherever he can, and he's doing the same for me.
But I think that brings, hope to people because I think there's a frustration around if you are very different from your partner, or if your parenting style is different, or if your needs are different, or the way that you make decisions is different. Like all of this can feel like it's divisive to the relationship, or it's going to make it harder for you guys to be compatible or to be in healthy relationship and connection. What I'm really hearing from you is that although you have a partner who's very different from you in a lot of ways beyond just, human design, um, it still can be very complementary to
Oh
one
yeah.
another. So I think that's like a healing thing to understand as long as you can see, empathize and kind of see their side. If maybe you understand their design, you're like, oh, it makes sense why they want to take forever to make this decision to move to the East Coast. Or it makes sense why this hotel room or this Airbnb or whatever doesn't feel right to them. Like just the understanding around how they're operating can kind of create that level of empathy and more connection rather than the, well, oh my God, you always do this, or why is it like this, or why can't we just decide? Like it almost like brings you together, just simply understanding without having to be the same or make
Yeah.
decisions the same.
Totally. And I think that there is so much friction that comes up in relationships when we just expect others to be different than what they are or similar to us. And I think human design just helps us know exactly how different they are. And I think another thing that like even your question made me think of is he's what got a 1-3 profile in his human design, which I know is probably new to a lot of listeners, but so does my toddler. And the one is very like research, investigative, like these amazing teachers. And my toddler, of course, has like so many questions around like how everything works. And that's like how his brain works. He like needs to understand the foundations of everything. And so he's been such an amazing teacher for her in that way because like he's equally interested in all the foundations. And I don't always have that same interest. For me, it's like if a thing works, I'm like, amazing. Like I don't always need to know exactly how it works, but like he has that need and so does she. So it's kind of been fun really watching him play that role for her in such a beautiful way.
I love that. That's so cute. I want to ask you about like work and career decisions because I know we're kind of in this place where I feel like a lot of people are in transition or maybe they're feeling burnt out. Are there any patterns that you see across types when it comes to burnout or how people navigate that? Are there any signals in our chart that we might be in the wrong work environment entirely? Like maybe it's not
Yeah.
just the wrong company, but like maybe we're not supposed to be doing work in this way. What have you uncovered in that realm when it comes to work life and career happiness?
Yeah, so let me just kind of briefly go through each type around kind of what I noticed for each of them. Again, if you don't yet know your type, you can look it up at humandesignblueprint.com. But as a manifesting generator, I think where I often notice them burn out the quickest is when they don't allow their constant evolution. If they feel like just because they launched an offering 6 months ago, they have to keep with it. Just because they like offered one-on-one sessions once means they have to like keep their calendar open. Manifesting generators are ever evolving by nature. And so it's so important to kind of allow that continued evolution. I think another area where I can watch them burn out is sometimes they can get quite frustrated when other people don't move as fast or do as much as them. And so they kind of end up carrying everything themselves because they're just like, nobody else can do it. So there's often a reframe for them of knowing that like not everyone's meant to move as fast or do as much, but like they can still be delegated to, they can still do it in their own way. I'm curious as a manifesting generator whether you recognize either of those things show up for you.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I definitely it's interesting because I think, I have that like ideas will come to me quick. I'll want to move on things really quickly in certain aspects, but then also I know that I don't know if it's maybe it's perfectionism, I don't know, but like my creative process for like bringing an offering to life is a little bit longer. Like I like to go really deep with my offers and like focus on the branding and like really build it out and make it super juicy and robust. Like I'm not the person that can just like whip out like, oh, I had an offer at noon and now it's for sale. Like I
Yeah.
know some people are like that. I'm not that girl, but maybe they're
Yeah.
manifesting generators and that works for them. But it's interesting because like I definitely have the Manny Gen tendencies of always evolving my interests, like kind of shifting what I want to be talking about and what my offerings are, but I also have like a longer, deeper creative process. And I think for a long time, I felt bad about that. I felt like, oh, this is so annoying. Why can't I just do this faster?
Yeah.
And maybe that was me, like, I don't know, fighting with my design.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because like yeah, you are fast and you've got this capacity to kind of make things happen quickly, but you also have that one in your profile that I was referencing with my husband too, where it's like you have a need for depth. You want to feel like you've done something really, really well. And like you want to kind of go all the way in and create it from that place, and you have like an eye for detail. So it's not that surprising to me that like you have a very deep creative process, because I think you are meant to, you want to come out with a thing and you're like, I like know what I'm talking about. I've gone so deep. Like this is
Yeah.
so intentional. Like that's so a part of who you are.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay, other types burning out.
So generators, similar to kind of what I mentioned in family, I think generators are so capable that they can find themselves holding so much, and they can end up kind of deprioritizing their own passions and just like doing everything for everyone else. So they often can burn out quickly when they don't put their own passions on the front burner, and they just like don't see that as important, and they're kind of saying yes out of obligation or desire to please. And so what makes their days sustainable is having days to kind of time to do the things that light them up, whether or not it relates to work. And also really being courageous in their no's and knowing that just because they can do something doesn't mean they should. And really kind of tuning into their gut to see what they're genuinely available for.
So good. I think that's good advice for everybody.
Totally, 100%. And I think just because and that's gonna be so true for you too as a manifesting generator, but just because they are, yeah, they just are so capable, they can just end up holding everything. And again, it's that lesson that mother learned of like prioritizing her passion is not selfish, it's generous. So how can she
Mm,
carve out some space, even if it's just an hour or 20 minutes or 5 minutes every day to do that?
so
I would
good.
say as projectors, our energy very naturally ebbs and flows. And so we can really burn out when we don't allow moments of pause, rest, space in our days, and we kind of book everything back to back, and we don't give ourselves permission to stop. As projectors, we can be really susceptible to just like going and going and going, and we just like don't know when to turn that switch off. And so I think really kind of allowing ourselves to rest and have moments where we're super unproductive intentionally, I think it's often what kind of allows our energy to naturally surge back.
I love the idea of like intentional unproductivity.
It's the best. Changed my life, because as a projector, I would find myself in my restful periods being like, oh, I'm gonna like take another course, listen to another podcast, like do another productive thing when like, especially when I have so much that I feel like I have to do all the time, and yet being like, and still it's okay to be unproductive, and still it's okay to accomplish nothing in this moment.
Yeah, it's kind of like that quote that's like rest is productive.
Totally. Then we've got manifestors. Manifestors are very disruptive people that are really good at getting ideas started, not necessarily at doing all the doing to keep the thing alive. So where they can often burn out is when they feel like they need to finish everything they start. So it's not just about the initiating, but it's about the maintaining and the sustaining. So they often thrive when they kickstart an idea and then kind of delegate, allow, and support partners so they can kind of breathe life into the next idea. So it's
Mhm.
when they really see their role beyond the beginning, and like where they really thrive is when they just get things started.
So are they good like visionaries?
Such good visionaries. Yeah.
Cool.
And so good at just like getting people like amped up about a thing and moving them in a new direction. And like if things stay fresh and exciting, they could like of course stay with it. But I worked with so many manifestors that like stayed with a thing just because they thought they should, because they should see it through to completion when their role was really at the beginning.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of, I think I read once, like according to my human design, I would be the type of person that like starts a lot of books, but like doesn't necessarily finish all of them. And that like I can stop feeling guilty about that because I basically, through my design, pick things up and I get what I need. And
Totally.
once I've gotten what I needed, like I don't need the rest. So I don't need to obligate myself to finish everything.
That's right. And you're a manifesting generator, so you have some of those manifestor qualities. And that is absolutely one of them of like, yeah, sometimes it's just like you begin a thing and you get what you need and then you move on to the next. And it's not failing, it's not flaky, it's not any of that. It's like you got what you needed and it's time to keep going.
Mm, very cool. What about reflectors?
Reflectors are so sensitive to their physical space and the people that they're around. So I would actually say probably the fastest track to burnout for them is when they are working out of spaces that don't feel good and working with people that are frustrated, are not lit up by their work, like because other people's sluggishness will kind of project onto them. And so for them, it's so much around their surroundings. So there are a lot of things that can burn them out, as there are for all of us. But I would say one of them is around the quality of the space and people around them. And then I would say one other piece is around trying to be very consistent in how they show up every single day. Reflectors have very naturally cyclical energy. They might have periods of a month where they're so on fire and making so much happen, followed by periods where like they're more in rest mode. And so if they're like trying to consistently show up in the same way, it can burn them out because their energy just doesn't operate like that.
Well, I hope this was helpful for everyone listening, kind of going through. And there's obviously going to be so many more applications for like every type and design in the book with all these real world stories. So I can't wait for people to dig into that. Do you want to start kind of like looking at my chart and maybe doing some of these like examples for people so they can get like a real taste of this practical application of human design and how it affects life, love, career, all the things?
Yeah, totally. So you're manifesting generator. We've talked about this. I think that when it comes to career, it means that you are somebody who's meant to be in this constant path of evolution. Your career path is not meant to look super linear. Like what you're doing in 5 years or 10 might not be what you're doing now. And so giving yourself that permission. And I would also say, I know you're engaged. I think having relationships and partners who just like allow for your constant evolution. They just like don't expect you to stay the same. Like in both the micro decisions of like, I might not be up for this thing this week that I said I was last week, or also I might not be the same person 3 months that I am today. So I think kind of allowing that just like constant dynamic energy. Have you noticed that? Do you feel like the people in your life honor that?
Yeah. Yeah. Jaime and I recently had a conversation about, because we just got engaged recently. We're reflecting on the 10 years of relationship that we've been together and the fact that, we met each other when we were 21. We were just kids. And so we are talking about why it is that we think that we were able to grow together over the last 10 years instead of grow apart. Because I think those years in your 20s are such a time of like discovery and pivotal change and, deciding and then undeciding and becoming and unbecoming and changing what you want to do with your career and maybe going through like a quarter life crisis of like, who am I and what am I doing and wanting to move somewhere new. Like there's so much change and upheaval that happens in those years of your life. And I think a lot of people go through breakups in that
Yeah.
season of life because they realize that the person that they're with is no longer going to be able to ride with them in the direction that they're wanting to go or whatever the reason is. So, yeah, we were talking about like it's kind of crazy because we have changed so much, especially me. Like I've, I think I've been like a different version of myself every 6 months, probably. So for sure, like the reason that our relationship is so strong and that we're still together after 10 years, especially going, from early 20s into our 30s now, when it's such a time of like big, like change and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's because you've like evolved and changed with me and always accepted every new version of me, and we've just like loved that in each other and just kept going, and we felt aligned in that. And I think that's the special part of us being able to stay together for 10 years.
Yeah. And I think that's just such an important thing for the people in your life is to allow for that, to not like see you and be like, oh, I'm like, you're going to be working on what you were working on 6 months ago, or you're going to express yourself in a similar way. Like you're a constant work in progress in the best of ways. I mentioned this piece already, but to say it again, manifesting generators are very fast when they're clear on what they want. And they're very capable of doing many things and doing them well. And so I would say on a more practical level, when it comes to working with people, they can have this disappointment in others when they feel like others have kind of a comparatively low capacity to them, not doing as much as them, not moving as fast as them. So that's a big piece in both collaborations, work-wise, but also in partnerships and friendships to notice where you're extending that expectation others will be like you and how you could be kind of more generous in the fact that like people might move slower, they might be more methodical, they might not do as much. It doesn't make them less talented, less successful. It just makes them different.
Yeah, I think for me, like that was something that was challenging at the start of wanting to delegate in my business was like I was kind of gripping on to like, but who's going to be able to do this as well as I can do it, And that was a process of yes, like letting go and surrendering to that and knowing that someone else is probably not going to be able to do it as good as I can do it, but their 80% might be worth me getting back all of this
Yeah,
time. And
100%.
right. So it's that. But also I will say it's been really important for me to have A players on my team.
Yeah.
And the people that I've hired, I've chosen for them to be, I'm not the person that's going to be hiring a $5 an hour assistant from Indonesia. Like do whatever you need to do for your overhead costs of your business. But I also just know based on my type and how I am, like I need A players who are going to be able to like show up and really do quality work for me.
Yeah. I love it. And it is just that understanding of like they might do it differently, but in a way that allows you more and more freedom in your business. We talked a little bit about this idea of responding, but this is something that is so practical and useful in career and in relationships. You are somebody who's not meant to chase after life. It's meant to come to you. Like things might show up in your life, opportunities, conversations, your partner 10 years ago, and there's just something in your body that pulls you towards that thing. And so your job is not to figure out what you're doing next, but to see what you naturally respond to and follow that. And so again, that's big and small ways, like what to post on Instagram to like what offer to create next. I have one more specific tip on that, but I'm just curious if you've seen that show up in your life.
Yeah, for sure. I really resonate.
Yeah. And what I love about this strategy is that it can often pull you in really unexpected directions. I tell so many kind of love stories in the book around people that are like, I was not looking for a relationship. I didn't want a thing. And yet this person showed up and I was like, okay. And I feel like even for you, that must have been the case because it probably wasn't super convenient to meet somebody while you were traveling.
Oh, no, I wasn't looking for a relationship at all.
Right.
No, I mean, I was on a dating app, but I wasn't like doing it to like, I was 21 and I was
Yeah.
studying abroad in Europe. I was like, I want to have fun. I want to meet a foreign guy. Like, I don't know, but I was not being serious at all. I actually had just gotten out of a relationship, like a long-term relationship, that was like 2.5, 3 years, 6 months prior. So I was like really in my like, living my life era. I was having so much fun. I just wanted to experience and do everything and make the most out of life and squeeze all the juice out of this experience that I was having living in a foreign country. So I was definitely not looking or hoping for or expecting to meet the person that I would spend the rest of my life with. Absolutely not, especially not at 21 in a foreign country.
Crazy, but that's the magic of the response is like, oh, like I got pulled to this thing. My body said like, I have the energy for this and this is the right thing for me. The specific piece I want to mention is that if you're feeling unclear on kind of where to go next, one of the best ways to access that is to ask you very specific yes, no questions. This will be true for all generators and manifesting generators. I can't tell you how often I've sat with a client who kind of talks around a challenge they're facing, and then I'm like, do you want to do this? And they're like, no. Like they know it, they just haven't been asked in the right way. And like even on a smaller level, my husband's a generator. If I ask him what he wants to eat for dinner, it's like he's like, what are you talking about? But I'm
Oh
like, do you
yeah,
want to eat this?
hate
And he's
that
like,
question.
100% that. So I would just say like in communicating with you, whether it's the people that you work with, or whether it's your fiance, or whether it's your friends, giving you specific options is often the best way to kind of cut through the mental clutter and speak straight to your gut feeling.
Yeah. And I also feel like I don't, I guess I knew that about my design,
Yeah.
but I almost just kind of blamed that on like decision fatigue of like, because I have so many tabs open all the time and because I'm running a business and planning events and planning a wedding and like I'm doing all these things, like there's just like so much fucking shit all the time that I'm like, okay, if you ask me what I want for dinner, like I'm not going to have an answer for you. Like I cannot compute, cannot think, no thoughts are
Yeah.
forming. Like I need you to handle it for me.
Yeah.
So I kind of viewed it as more of like that it was just part of overwhelm, but it does make
Yeah.
sense that it's more so like it's just easier for me to get that gut response and reaction when I have those specific options.
That's right. And just pose in a very specific way. And again, this is why like understanding the nuances of our design are so useful on a day-to-day basis because it just like helps us, not waste energy or not get caught in these ways of doing things that are not us and just kind of get straight to our truth and keep going. Because you might be circling the decision in your mind for a day when like if somebody asks you in the right way, you can know in 10 seconds,
Yeah, so true.
and then you have so
Mhm.
much more space to do other things in your life. So we talked a little bit about your gut feeling and your decisions. Like, I think one thing I would be aware of is just knowing that not everybody makes decisions as fast as you. While you have an instantaneous clarity when something's right, like other people might need more time, a couple days, a month, whatever that thing is. But I would also advise you that, like, your gut is not only a tool to help you know where to put your energy, but also a tool to know when to put it there. So you might feel like something isn't right, and then a week later, you're like, now it is.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, like sometimes things don't feel in alignment, but then if you give it time, that answer might change.
Yeah, like it's basically like your gut is like now or not now. So meaning that like if you don't get a strong gut response to something, it could mean that it's never the right thing, or it could also mean the timing's not right yet. Like you might have when I sit with somebody and I'm trying to help them get clear on a job, I'll say, is this the job you want to take? And is now the right time to take it? And I can't tell you how often someone's like, that is the job. That is the opportunity. Now is not the right time.
Mm.
So it's kind of helping disentangle those so you can make sure kind of both things are pointing towards yes.
I wonder if I could use that. I wonder if I could use this to help me make all the decisions for my wedding
I
plan.
was about to say that. Oh my God, I was just,
Choosing, well, because I'm thinking about it because just this morning we
yeah.
were like looking at all the photographers, videographers, hair, makeup, like all these things. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's hard for me to know, like, because we're also getting married in Spain, and like I can't see really like see or meet any of these people in person. And like, I kind of have to close the dates and like lock things in. So it has been sort of this like, I mean, I do get strong no's for sure
Yeah.
when I'm like, nah, not the vibe. No. But yeah, I wonder if I can use this to help me make all these decisions because it's a lot of decisions.
It's so many, and I was sitting with a friend earlier this week who just renovated, did this huge renovation of her house, and she had like total decision-making fatigue, and she really did learn how to use this, where it was just like this or this, this or this, this or this, because, you're somebody who's got like a very active, powerful, inspiring mind. I think it's probably so amazing for your clients and the people in your life, but like you can probably get lost trying to figure out all the possibilities in your mind. So in a moment like that, I would really try to use your gut to kind of make all those day-to-day decisions and free up your mind for other things.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to do it.
Okay, Greg, let me know how it goes. I think another thing that comes up, I'm especially curious around social media. You are what we call a 5-1 profile. And I know that we've talked about this, but the 5 in your profile is around the fact that you're here to have a big impact. Like it's not meant to be reserved for your close circle, like it's big, but it also means that you've kind of got this like provocative energy at times where people can like project all kinds of things onto you. Can like project that you're the most amazing person in the world, that you can save them and that you can be like their hero, and also project really negative things. And like it's often positive to start, but I think a big lesson for you is to hold your own, to not get so swept away by other people's ideas or expectations for you that you lose sense of who you are. When I do a lot of celebrity human design profiles, and they almost always are fives. They have fives in their profile. This kind of like thing where people have lots of ideas about them. So have you noticed that tendency for people to project things onto you? And if so, how do you stay anchored in what actually feels like you?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely have. And I posted something. It was like it was meant to be funny, but I was also kind of being serious. The other day on Instagram where it was like, where are the haters? Like you guys have been quiet. Like, is my messaging not provocative enough for you right now? Like, I'm getting worried. Like, is my messaging working? Like, please, like hit me up. Um,
Yeah.
just as kind of like a cheeky joke and a nod to the fact that like I think really being ourselves and standing in the authenticity and truth of who we are and being willing to have those polarizing opinions and stuff is the thing that really makes us magnetic to the right people and repels us
Yeah.
away from the wrong people. So I've definitely noticed that. I think that I always get really curious about this because I also know, like, I'm a big Taylor Swift fan. I know she's a 5-1. And so if you think about, like, when you're describing the 5-1, if I were to try to imagine what that might look like on a much bigger scale, I kind of think of Taylor Swift because you can
Yeah.
see
That's a
how
good example.
there's the projection, as you're saying, of like, you're my savior. I love you, like everything for you. Like the internet calls her mother. Like there's a lot. But then on the other side, probably one of the most hated individuals, artists, like receives a lot of backlash for literally anything that she does. Even, donating, it's never enough. Or it's, oh, you donated 10 million, but you fly in a private jet. So it's like, you can never kind of
Yeah.
get it right all the time. And I think about for myself, like, is there do I have any resistance maybe to blowing up my platform more or being seen on a larger scale than what I already am because I know on some level that that might be coming because as you
Yeah.
said, it starts out really positive
Yeah,
and
totally.
and then there can come, the more intensity of the negatives. And for sure, like I've had my fair share of, you know, stupid like hate comments or things, but it's never been anything like too like personal or like cruel or it's been the type where it's pretty easy to be like, okay, this is like an internet troll, like who cares, whatever.
Right.
So I always kind of wonder for myself and I introspect a lot about that. Like, am I blocking more visibility for myself because I know what might be coming with that? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that like I guess what I would say is like one thing that helps people kind of nap, I think it actually doesn't become that relevant at the Taylor Swift level. But I think one thing that becomes really relevant is like being so explicit in your communication. Like I feel like with fives, they can really struggle if people like assume all these things about them, but like they also don't do the work of like letting people know what they can expect from them. And so like it just is like there's so many illusions. But I think fives, especially with like your clients and the people that you work with, they do really well when they're like, this is exactly what I can offer. This is what you can expect from me. This is what this thing is not. This is who I'm not this person for you. So I think fives often do well with kind of that specificity of like laying it out. But yeah, I do think there's this kind of growing ability that you'll probably have of like, how can I like stay myself amidst all the things that I'm receiving? How can I like stay myself amidst the negative stuff and the positive stuff? Because the positive stuff can be seductive.
Hmm.
Somebody might see a thing and you're like, yeah, maybe I should go do that thing. Maybe I should go try that thing. And it's like, it's not actually rooted in what you want to do.
Hmm.
So, that I think it's a worthy inquiry, but I would say that like your impact is meant to be big and you are meant to be provocative in that way. And your work is to stay steady in yourself throughout it all.
Okay, I love that. What's the intro song to the a song about Paris where it's like the quote from the Step Brothers. It's provocative. I love it. That's me. Okay,
Yeah.
permission to just keep doing that.
And I would say, as somebody that has observed the way that you share, I feel like you're doing it. I don't really feel like I mean, you know better than me, but like, I don't really sense you holding back or trying to fit into anyone else's version. It feels like you're being yourself.
Yeah, I feel that too. I just
Yeah.
sometimes,
You-
we try to create problems for ourselves to solve for
Totally.
healing that doesn't exist.
Totally. And then one other thing I would say about your profile is that you got a one, and I mentioned this already, but again, I see this in you is like the ones are the teachers. They just like know what they're talking about. They've just gone deep. They're like the authorities. They're just like, you can trust me. Like I have done my research. I've gone deep. I know exactly what I'm talking about. And so you are somebody that's not meant, as you said, to kind of just jump from one thing to the next. Like you are meant to take the time to kind of build a really solid foundation, to feel like really strong in who you are and what you're doing, because like that is a thing that like emanates authority and really inspires people to trust you.
Yeah, I really resonate with that. I think that's helped me a lot just in my own perception of that, the depth of the creative process, as I spoke to you about, especially in my the way that I create offers and stuff. It makes a lot of sense, even though I can move fast as a Manny Gen. That like one is what I need depth in everything, in conversation and relationships. Like
Relationships, totally.
I'm not capable of a 20-minute podcast episode. Like I can't do it.
Yeah. You're not meant to.
Okay, perfect.
And I think ones are often very like inquisitive people. And like, I'm actually curious for you. Like, I've done a lot of podcasts in my life, and I feel like you're somebody who is very prepared in your podcasts. Like, I feel like you really put a lot of thought into them, which to me also feels like a very one thing. Because I see a lot of people are like, well, here we are. Like, where's it going to go? And like, I love that. And I feel like the one piece is this kind of thoughtfulness of like, I need to like make sure I like do research on my own and feel really prepared. Like, is that part of your process?
Yeah, for sure. Something that I think I'm proud of is that a lot of people tell me after our interviews, they're like, "You're such a great interviewer. I loved this conversation," or "It felt so flowy." And I do my best to prepare. Like, I really want to research my guests. I want to know what they talk about, who they are, their background. Like, I want to ask questions that I'm curious about and that I think my audience would be curious about, that maybe aren't just like the basics. I hate starting podcast episodes of like, so can you just introduce yourself for everybody and tell us how you got here? Like, I do I do a lot to be intentional with the interview process, but it's not even so much because I want that feedback of like, oh, you're such a great interview, but it's like that's the conversation that I want to have. I don't
Yeah.
want to sit here and be unprepared and just have like a surface level conversation because I'm, just asking you like how you got to where you are in your life.
Yeah, totally. And it's felt, and I think that like it's just funny seeing the one because so so often when ones are working within teams, like they hate when people kind of throw things on them and they have no time to research on their own. Like these are people that are like, yes, you can ask me to do a thing and I've got to like research it on my own and then I'll return to you. And so like you having that space in every part of your life is so important.
100%. So felt.
Yeah. So I know we're running out of time, but there are so many parts of your design. I think that like one other piece that I would share is like, were you, I'm curious, like your relationship to working for other people, because one of your channels in human design is very much around the fact that like you're not really meant to work for other people.
Oh, well, that's
It
good
does,
to say. I never really did. I mean,
it doesn't, it doesn't mean that you can't. It just means that like you got so much creative fire and energy, and it can be so hard when somebody else is directing it. Like
mm.
you're kind of meant to be in charge of like where does it want to go and how do I want to express it every day, and have somebody else kind of limit it in that way can be really hard. Does that
Is
make sense?
this for sure? Like when I was younger, I wonder if this is like where little girls get called like bossy. Is this like like where the bossy thing comes out? Because I was always called bossy, but now I'm like, I'm not bossy, I'm the boss. So,
Hmm.
uh,
Right.
but for sure, yeah, I did one corporate internship, and that was where I decided I don't think I want to take this job. So I'm gonna move back to Spain and pack my life into two suitcases and just figure it out. Like I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just knew that I was like, oh, like, I don't know. My boss is like sitting across from me and he's like, kind of seems miserable. And I think he might be an alcoholic. And I guess this is like the future of how you like grow in companies like this. And he's in the same size cubicle as I am. And I'm the intern. Like, I don't know if I'm cut out for all this. Like, I don't know if I
Mm.
thought I wanted this career. I really saw myself as this like successful kind of like businesswoman, independent, climbing the ranks of the corporate ladder. Cause I think I had this desire and vision for like power and impact and inspiration. And that was what I had seen in the world so far up until that point of how you could create that. But then I traveled and studied abroad in Europe and my eyes were open to a whole different way of life and pace of life and all these things. And I obviously fell in love by accident. And so then it was the summer after that where I was sitting in that corporate internship and I was just like, I think this for my gut was like, no, just no.
Yeah.
So that's when I was like, all right, I'm moving back to Europe. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know how I'm going to make money, but like, I guess we'll just figure it out.
So good, and that's so much around like just obviously being led by your gut in all the ways. And I think other thing that comes up with that is like you're somebody who thrives when you have like uninterrupted time to make things happen. Like if you're like in a situation where people are kind of like coming at you, which I'm sure they
Oh
do,
my
like
God, I can't.
yeah, and like obviously like you have to be accountable to your team and your partner and your clients. And I would say when I look at a design like yours with that specific channel of kind of charisma, like carving out time where you're like, I'm not going to be answering emails. I'm not going to be responding to texts. Like I'm just in my own creative flow making things happen. Like that's where you can make so much happen so fast and so powerfully.
Yeah, I think that's like one thing that I need to really get better at because I know that to be true for me. And I try to set myself up with those blocks, but I'm not always uh, as good at honoring the boundaries that need to be set in order for me to like get into my flow state and like go deep.
Yeah.
And I can fall into that trap of feeling like everything is urgent and replying to the Slack messages and oh, someone needs an update on this and oh, we need a video approval and oh, here's this email and oh, a payment just failed. Oh, let's send that, forward that to the assistant. But like I can't just get in that mode. And then I always feel really, really like drained and disappointed at the end of a day like that because I had desired to like give myself this long block of like where I could
Yeah.
just be creative in this new offer that I'm building. And I didn't do it. And I'm like, ugh, again.
I know it's hard, because like people will be coming at you, but I do think that like that's such an important need for you. And I tell a story in my book of somebody who had this and he like built a shed in his backyard. So like basically like every so often he'd be like, family, I love you. And like I'm going to my shed, I'm closing the door, I'm like unavailable and like I'm doing my thing and I will come back a different person. So like give me the space to just like be in my own thing.
Yeah. You know what's weird is I was just thinking the other day, like if I need to really work on something and my partner's home and he's not working or he's like cooking or like watching a show or he's going to go for a walk on the beach, like I feel like I can't get into that creative flow as you were saying. So I feel like I need a shed. Well, that's probably just me going to like a cafe or like being in an environment where I am alone, like literally. Because if I feel the energy of like
Yeah.
other things happening, I
Yeah.
like almost can't focus, even if I'm in the room with the door closed by myself. It's bizarre.
Yeah. I feel that though. I mean, you're also so sensitive. Like you're just taking in so much from your environment. So it's not surprising that you're like, I know that we're not talking, and yet I still feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. This has been so good, Erin. I love
So
it.
fun. I know.
Yeah.
I mean, human design is so fun because it often doesn't tell us anything new. It just gives us like a new language and framework to be like, oh, this is who I am and this is how I operate best. And so it's fun just seeing all the ways this is like already shown up in your life.
Yeah. Oh, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and you were able to kind of see a window into how there's so much practical application of understanding your human design on a deeper level and what you're going to learn inside of Erin's new book, like when it comes to love, relationships, career, life, just like all of these little micro and macro decisions of how you can really lean into your design and also knowing the design and understanding, like we talked about, the people in your life, your friends, your partner, whoever, like it creates so much more connection and harmony and empathy around how people are operating and understanding that it's okay to be different and you can still be really compatible. So I'm really, really excited for everyone to get this book in their hands. Erin, can you share where they can find the new book, How Do You Choose a Human Design Guide for What's Best for You at Work, in Love, and in Life?
Yes. Well, you can search How Do You Choose Erin Claire Jones. It's also at humandesignblueprint.com/pre-order dash book. And it's really just a perfect place to really understand how to actually use this system practically in your relationships, your career, your parenting. Um, in kind of a day-to-day kind of way. And then also we sell hyper-personalized guides all about your design, and we have a discount code daily for that if you also kind of want a PDF all about you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love my blueprint. So if you guys want to grab yours, that's what you can use the code daily for. We'll link it in the show notes. And if you don't already follow Erin, which I'm sure you do, make sure that you go over and give her a follow on socials. We'll link her Instagram and everything for you guys. Thank you so much for coming back on the show, Erin. I'm so excited for you. And congratulations on the book.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yay. All right, you guys, if you loved this episode and you know someone else in your life who wants to dive deeper into human design and understanding themselves, make sure that you copy the link, send it to a friend, let them know that this episode made you think of them. Kill two birds with one stone. And as always, if you could take a screenshot, share it to your Instagram stories and tag us. We love connecting with you guys and seeing who's actively listening. So tag both Erin and I. We love you guys, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.